Bounces off lows to end a volatile session near the day's high. It's a 200-point recovery from the day's low for the Nifty. Broader markets remain under pressure. FMCG, consumer names, banks lead while oil and gas and IT stocks slip.
FMCG stocks lead from the front, led by HUL, which has constituted an independent committee to chart out the future of its ice cream business. Demand at the onset of the festive season and post-monsoon pickup in rural have boosted the other consumer stocks, while PSU stocks take a hit, with stocks falling anywhere between 10 to 40% from their recent peaks. The Nifty PSE index is now down over 8% from the recent high hit on the 1st of August.
The Enforcement Directorate files a case against Religaire's Rashmi Saluja and other top officials. The ED accuses them of cheating and criminal conspiracy to block Burman Brothers from assuming ownership of Lilladher. Hello and welcome to a fresh new edition of Markets Forward, the program where we try and wrap everything which has happened today, but get you a list of things you need as we look forward to the next trading session. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleague Reema Tendulkar. Reema, hi.
Hi. It turned out to be a good close on, Monday, this trading session on Monday. But let's tell you what we have for you on our show. This is the show where we get you all the big news, key developments in the Lal Street, the top corporate voices, and the events to track ahead. Monday morning looked a little tense, challenging, but we've ended up pretty good, nearly 100 points higher.
200 off the lows, right?
Yeah.
So, the only thing one can of course, there's this buy, very, very strong bid, buy the dip, any dip, and that I think always has been the case. But on Friday, the market fell a little over 1%, right? And then the US fell about 2%, the S&P 1.5%, the NASDAQ a little bit more. Maybe, the market fell in advance here a little bit because on Friday there was a lot of head scratching which was going on, wondering why a 200-point fall on the Nifty. And I think sometimes, markets are collective wisdom, and what happened on Friday accounted for some of the damage that we saw in the US session. In any case, the market in the morning did look a little tricky. We opened lower and then through the course of the day kept moving higher and only picked up pace in the last 15-20 minutes of trade. So, as I said, almost 200 points. So 24,750 was the day's low, and we ended at about 24,950, 936 to be precise. Bank Nifty was the big mover, and about 1% plus gains on the Nifty Bank. It's starting to come to rescue on tricky days, and today was one of those days, although there has been lack of follow-through. There's been no day 2, day 3. We'll see if that changes. The Nifty Bank, by the way, ended above its 20-day moving average, which is 5,900. We left off at 51,100 plus. So that is good. The broader market was, there were more down than up. If you just counted the number of stocks which were trading, there was more red than green. But I must say, and I think Hormuz will put the spotlight on the action. I think if you just look at the volume-led action, I think you've got to give it to the bulls because they came out winners once again, even though in an absolute numerical basis there was more down than what was up. Consumer was one kind of theme which we will talk more about, which looked good. All those jewelry stocks and FMCG names really shone through. Reema.
Well, the reason the advance decline ratio was skewed in favor of the stocks declining was one, the mid-cap index ends down 0.25%, even though it did recover more than 1% from the day's low. And the small-cap index was down nearly 1%. Remember, last week we were talking about how small-cap index was outperforming. But today, those tables have reversed. The small-cap index was down 1%. In terms of sectoral action, FMCG leads from the front, 2% gain on that. Banks did well. The Nifty banking index was up 1%. On the way down, PSU struggled. The Nifty PSC index was the top sectoral loser, 1.5% lower. And you also had IT and metals under pressure, and both those indices cracking, perhaps given the weakness that we had in most of the global markets. But in the next 20 minutes, we'll also tell you about individual stocks. So the top movers and shakers, we'll discuss them with Hormuz. Consumer stocks like HUL, Britannia, ITC, all buzzing in trade. So Mangalam will join in to tell us why stocks like Petronet LNG and ONGC also declined on the back of brokerage notes. And finally, we'll prep you up for tomorrow with the key market events to watch out for. But first up, it's over to Hormuz for the key movers and shakers. Hormuz.
The kind of start we had, you take this close any day with both hands, and leading that recovery, as you mentioned, was the Nifty Bank. Yes, the follow-up action is missing, but you take the gains that we saw on the banking index today. Leading the charge was ICICI Bank, that led the way down on Friday as well. But AU Small Finance Bank, Kotak, IndusInd all had a good day, as did HDFC Bank, and that, despite a 0.5% gain, has a substantial contribution to the gains in today's session. Now, back another sector that did well today were the FMCG names, as you mentioned. Almost all constituents of the FMCG index ended higher today, be it United Spirits, United Breweries. HUL had a very good day, 3% higher for that stock. Dabur and Godrej Consumer also ending at the highest point of the day. Pharma had a good day as well in today's session. We're talking about broader market pain, but most of these sectors had a very good session. Look at Alembic Pharma, 9% higher. Jubilant Pharmova, another 8% today. Glenmark Life had a good day, as did Laurus Labs and Biocon as well, ending with substantial gains. But the sector that sees selling pressure and continues to do so, in line with what happened last week, were the PSUs, and the PSE index had another day in the red, and most of the constituents, barring a couple of them, ending with losses of anywhere between 3 to 4%, but some recovery from the lows of the day, but ending lower nonetheless. And lastly, some stocks that did well on the volumes front, and they'll come up on your screen. Look at Gujarat Fluoro, look at DOMS Industries, Aether Industries, JSW Energy, and Jupiter Wagons on the downside, ending 7% lower on very strong volumes. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Hormuz, thank you very much for that. Siddhartha, Khemka, Motilal is with us, and Shilpa, Rout, Prabhudas, Lilladher is also with us. Thanks very much, both of you. One name was Paytm, and Nimesh was Nimesh will talk more about that on his D Street Chattel. His stock moved up 20 rupees in the last 20 minutes of trade, Paytm today. Maybe we'll have Nimesh talk about it, and then we'll ask for a quick opinion. Shilpa, why don't you run us through the price action? Where does it leave us today? Sharp bounce from the day's low.
Yes, Prashant, the move was actually quite convincing today, and it's a glad thing that 24,750 levels were quite supportive, and it was respected. So as long as we are holding 24,750 for Nifty, I believe we are still intact with the upside trend. Probably a little consolidation for a few days, and we might again see the upside move happening. For Bank Nifty also gave a good closing today. Closing above 51,000 was very crucial for the index, and it happened. So if we cross and sustain tomorrow 51,200 levels, then we will again be talking about levels of 51,800 to 52,000 very quickly.
Okay, that's the view on the markets and the way we perform. Let's take it down to the biggest sector of the day, and that's consumer. The Nifty FMCG index up 2%. Individual names, HUL rallied 3%. The company has announced that they're planning to evaluate the future of the ice cream business. Britannia, Dabur, ITC also gaining handsomely in trade. Mangalam joins in with the latest news flow. Mangalam.
Well, indeed, the consumer sector was the sector of the day. The FMCG sector actually hit a fresh record high as well. Some, which was news-based, which was specific, and about that, a lot of stocks were buzzing around on account of general reasons as well. So let's start with the specific news first. HUL, the board has constituted an independent committee to evaluate the future of its ice cream business. Remember, earlier in the year, Unilever, the parent, had said that they are looking to decide whether they should spin off their ice cream business or not by 2025. And Hindustan Unilever on its part has said that they will follow the timelines of the global parent itself. Remember, the first quarter itself, they had gone ahead and sold their water purifier business for about 600 crores. So the street is focused on some sort of deal brewing out here, and at the same time, the company focusing on its own core. Britannia, on the other hand, the company has gone ahead and received all the permissions required to go ahead and set up the capex in the Ranjangaon plant, so increased capacity also aids their business. But add to that, we saw big gains come by in names like Godrej Consumer, Dabur, we saw Imami, and all the other FMCG stocks doing extremely well as well. And that was largely because, it's September right now, it's nearing the end of monsoon and the onset of festive season. So the street is pinning hopes on recovery in rural demand, along with post-monsoon recovery coming by and ahead of festive season, like I said, too. More importantly, over the last 5 or 6 days, crude has been benign too, so that alleviates any sort of concerns with regards to raw material inflation, and that should aid margins of all the consumer companies going forward. So with all of this, a lot of sentiment positivity around the FMCG space, and that explained why it was the sector of the day.
Thank you very much for that. Siddhartha, on this HUL announcement, if the demerger of the ice cream business does happen and the characteristics of ice cream are different from that of the other businesses, the products it sells in terms of seasonality, in terms of supply chain, etc. So if the demerger does go through or any sort of, a spin-off, is it material enough to cause a up move in the stock? How would you read the developments?
So, Rima, if you look at it's a 3 to 4% revenue contribution to overall HUL, and even a spin-off to that extent would be a small portion of the overall business. Yes, the business dynamics are different. The cold chain storage and the entire supply chain branding would be different. But nonetheless, markets do get excited about any value unlocking from a large house, especially the likes of HULs. If you see, the growth could be much higher than the core business, and hence valuation capturing the upside in the valuation post the demerger could also be much higher, given that the strong brand in the HUL's ice cream business model. So in terms of size, may not be that large, but in terms of opportunity and growth, that could be big.
No, absolutely. That's well said. Well, let's talk about some losers as well, right? You had Petronet and ONGC, both which were on the under pressure on the back of some brokerage notes. Sonal is here with what these notes said. Sonal, over to you.
Thank you for that. Let me start with Petronet LNG because there's a note coming in from Jefferies. Now remember, Petronet LNG saw good volumes. In the first quarter, we saw heat waves, and that's why power demand was high as well. But now Jefferies suggests that July volumes are 30% lower than the May peak that we had seen. And this is something which could be negative for Petronet. This is because gas demand power has cooled off from higher levels. Spot LNG prices are now more expensive, which makes it negative for Petronet LNG. Additionally, alternate fuels, they compared to gas are cheaper, and that's the reason why gas demand has been going down. Additionally, there is earnings momentum which is turning negative. There are capital allocation concerns with respect to their petrochemical plant, and recently the East Coast Terminal project, which could be medium-term drags according to Jefferies. Valuations are unfavorable after the 90% rally that we've seen since the month of November. That's why they maintain and underperform, and they also have a target price of 240 rupees a share. For ONGC, the crude price fall below that $75 per barrel mark is something that Citi is worried about. They say ONGC would be the most impacted. That's why they've downgraded the stock to a neutral. ONGC's net crude realizations, they have averaged around $75 a barrel since the time windfall taxes were levied. That would be around 2 years back. But now there's a possibility that crude could reach levels of $70 per barrel because Citi is bearish on crude oil prices from here on, and that's why they think ONGC's core earnings would be impacted. That's why they have lowered their FY26 consolidated EPS by 7% on lower crude price assumption at $70 per barrel. They have a target price of 330 rupees per share, and after the rally of around 38%, valuation comfort, that goes away. That's why they are bearish on the stock.
Thanks very much, Sonal, for that. That's Petronet and ONGC in focus. Shilpa, how do these stocks look? And anything else in the oil and gas space with the trade?
Petronet is actually a sell, and we have been recommending that. The stock is very, it has weakened below 370, so we have been giving a sell recommendation for the same. And from here, I believe it can still do 320 to 300 zones, and below 300, definitely you see much more, weakening happening, and the stock can test 270. ONGC, whereas, has given a fresh breakdown now. So if a sell strategy can be given here, I believe ONGC is one place you can definitely look down here. With the stop loss of 310 from here, the targets of 270 to 260 is very much open.
Okay, all right, Shilpa, thank you very much for that. Let's talk about Lilladher now. There is this sort of war brewing between the Burman family, Dabur's Burman family, and of course the existing management at Lilladher, which is led by Rashmi Saluja, who's the executive chairperson. This has taken a sort of different turn now. The Enforcement Directorate has stepped in, filing a complaint against Ms. Saluja and some of the other top officials at Lilladher. Santhya is here with details. Santhya.
So yes, Prashant, the ongoing acquisition battle has become even more murkier now. Enforcement Directorate has stepped in and ED has actually filed an FIR for cheating and criminal conspiracy against Rashmi Saluja, Nitin Agarwal and Nishant Singhal. ED has accused these three of conspiring and filing an FIR against the Berman brothers to block the takeover. Now, last year in November, Mumbai police filed an FIR and the complainant was this guy called Vaibhav Gavli, who claimed to be a shareholder, and he accused Berman brothers of financial irregularities, which led to, according to this guy, huge financial losses for the shareholders. ED stepped in, ED started investigating money laundering cases. Now, ED has filed an FIR with Mumbai police, and its FIR, the ED officer has mentioned that during its investigation, the ED, the financial agency, took the statement of Gavli in which he said first he does not have a single document or evidence to prove his allegations against the Berman brothers. Second, he was asked by he filed a FIR on instructions of Rashmi Saluja, Nitin Agarwal and Nishant Singhal. He said that 10 to 15 days before buying the Lilladher shares, he was introduced to these three people, and they gave him 2 lakh rupees, 1,20,000 to buy the Lilladher shares and remaining 80,000 for filing this FIR. In fact, according to ED, this person, Gavli, in his statement has said that this was done by Rashmi Saluja and others in order to block the takeover, so that the way, because this is the allegation in the FIR that Rashmi Saluja and others were diverting the funds from Lilladher and its subsidiaries in the forms of ESOPs, and they wanted to continue enjoying these benefits, and that's why they filed this FIR, because they were afraid that once the takeover will be over, they might not be able to enjoy these benefits. So based on this, now ED has filed an FIR. What exactly is going to be ED's next step? That remains to be seen, but ED is also at the same time taking steps against Rashmi Saluja. In fact, last month they seized assets worth 120 crore rupees. They froze these assets, and according to ED, these assets were held in the accounts of Rashmi Saluja, Agarwal and Singhal in the form of ESOPs. So ED is investigating these allegations apart from the Mumbai police FIR. Prashant.
Thank you very much for that, Santya. Moving on now, life insurance data for the month of August is also out. Yash joins in with the details. Yash.
Well, it's been a strong month for the life insurance industry, that is the month of August. But the growth this time around in the month of August has been driven by the largest life insurance company, that is LIC, whereas private life insurance companies have managed to post just around a mid-single digit growth in the month of August. If I have to speak about individual companies, let's start with HDFC Life. The company witnessed a slow growth, but it had a strong base to work on. August premium for HDFC Life, that grew just by about 4%. For the first 5 months of the financial year, the premium growth stands at 12%. August total annualized premium equivalent, or APE, grew by 8%. Retail APE for HDFC Life, that saw a growth of about 10%. ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, it was a moderate growth for the company over a weak base that it enjoyed. August premium growing at 12%. First 5 months, the premium growth at 17%. August total APE, a growth of 21%. August retail APE, a growth of 29%. Max Life Insurance, keep an eye on this particular company because the growth's been growing pretty strong in the previous month as well and this time as well. And the good part is that the growth comes over a strong base which the company had to work on. So again, in August, the premium growth stood at 17%. First 5 months, the growth stands at 16%. August total APE, a growth of 17%. Again, August retail APE, a growth of 20%. SBI Life Insurance, it's weak growth, but do remember it's a strong base which the company is working on. So August premium contracted by 13%. First 5 months, the premium contracted by about 5%. August total APE contracted 2%. August retail APE saw a growth of about 4%. Finally, LIC, as I said, drove the industry's growth in the month of August. So the premium growth stood at about 22%. First 5 months, the growth stands at 28%. August total AP grew by about 13%, and retail AP, that saw a small growth of just about 100 basis points in the month of August.
Thank you, Yash, for that. Shilpa, quick word on any of these life insurance companies' strongest chart?
ICICI Pru Life, Max Financials and LIC, actually all the three, they're very strongly placed. LIC Housing Finance, if you look at 680, is a very concrete support. So as long as it is holding that, I believe LIC can do 760 to 780. ICICI Pru in that case has given a fresh breakout again. 720 is a good support. Look for targets of 800 to 820.
No, got that. Max Financial is what Yash was telling us to keep an eye out on. Sid, any thoughts on, I don't know if you have coverage here?
Yeah, Prashant. So I think as we discussed the entire insurance space we like, while our preference is towards the larger ones, which is your LIC, ICICI Pru, HDFC Life. Some
Okay.
of these is what we like.
Okay. Shilpa and Siddhartha, thank you very much for joining us today on the show. We'll slip into a break. We'll come back and get you the top corporate voices and the key events to watch tomorrow. Stay tuned.
Okay, welcome back. Lots to talk about in terms of commentary that we heard from companies who joined us through the course of the day here as well. So I'll start with Senco Gold. I think that interview and, of course, what they told us kind of sparked and lit the fire under most gold jewelry sort of names today, because that packed it very well. What did they tell us? Of course, in terms of their business, they said the new businesses, they said they're going to invest between 50 and 60 crores initially. And between 25 and 30 crores thereafter towards sort of building out some of these businesses which are adjacent to the underlying core jewelry business. They expect these businesses to contribute between 4 and 5% of the total revenue within the next 4 to 5 years. They also said that September, the month of September and second quarter in particular, are turning out to be much better than what they had assumed when they got into Q2.
Okay, in terms of the IPO action, auto parts manufacturer Cross opened its 500 crore IPO for subscription today. It closes on the 11th of September. Now, through this issue, the company plans to raise 500 crore rupees, as we told you. Now, the management said that they plan to repay debt of 90 crore rupees through the proceeds. They also said there will be a positive impact of 1.5% on their margins.
Well, Bajaj Housing Finance is the big 6,500 crore plus IPO, which opened for subscription. Atul Jain was with us, the MD of the company. He told us that over the past 3 years, the company's loan portfolio has been growing at a robust 31% CAGR. Of course, he did not guide specifically whether 31 will be the number going forward as well. They said that they will try and maintain this run rate going forward. They added that they want to diversify the loan book and expect no impact on net interest margins from the capital raise.
And as we wrap the show, we'll bring you some of the key market events to watch out for. Sonal is standing by.
Thank you so much for that. Well, there is some action which is expected tomorrow. For instance, Camlin Fine Sciences, that will consider fundraising by rights issue tomorrow, so watch out for that one. No dearth of action in the IPO market. PN Gadgil Jewelers, the IPO opens tomorrow. We also have the mutual fund data for the month of August, which is expected, so watch out for that one. And the OPEC monthly oil market report will be expected tomorrow as well. In terms of global economic data from Germany, we have the CPI for the month of August. And for UK, we have the unemployment rate and the employment change for the month of June. So watch out for some of these macro events.
All right, Sonal, thank you very much for that. Well, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward from all of us here. Goodbye. Thank you for staying with us. There is more coming up on the other side of a quick break.